Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And today I have a wonderful guest. Her name is Shelley Kaehr. She's a PhD, and she's written a really cool book. It's called Meet Your Karma. And if you're watching me on YouTube, I'm holding it up. It says, Meet Your Karma, the healing power of past life memories. And I believe in reincarnation. Now, some of y'all don't, but she may make a believer out of you today. So before I bring her on, let me give you a little background about Shelley. She's from Dallas, and she is a past life regression practitioner in private practice for 20 years. Now, Shelley received her PhD in parapsychic science from the American Institute of Holistic Theology and is a certified clinical hypnotherapist, master hypnotist, and master practitioner of neuro-linguistics programming. Gosh, Shelley, you've got a lot going on here. Welcome to High Road to Humanity.
Nancy, thank you so much for having me on the show.
I'm excited. I heard about you. I heard you're the past life lady. You do a YouTube, you have a YouTube channel called Past Life Lady. But I guess before we get started, I'd just like to know, how did you get into this? Tell us your story. Why did you decide to become a past life, therapist? Where did this come from?
It is pretty weird. It's definitely not what everybody else is doing. When I was a kid, my mother attended a luncheon with the woman who was in the book, The Search for Bridie Murphy. If viewers and listeners are familiar with that one, it was a really famous past life regression case from the 1970s, where this woman was very sick with allergies, and it was just so bad, she decided to try hypnotherapy. And so the therapist kept taking her back and regressing her to childhood, and she was getting a little bit better. And finally one day he said, look, I want you to go back to the source of these allergies. And she started reporting on her life in Ireland.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a really super famous book.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother met the woman and brought the book home when I was a little kid. And so I don't know what you were hanging out talking to your parents about, Nancy, but we were talking about past lives.
Believe it or not, and I've never really said this on the radio, my grandma had a Ouija board, which I'm not into. Yes, right? And I'm not into it because I understand now that it's probably not a good tool, which it's not. But my grandmother did have a Ouija board, and they used to do that. So yeah, I came from one of those crazy families.
Yeah, all right. Well, then you know what I'm talking about. I've had a Ouija board, and I've tossed it in the trash. So
there you go. Me too.
We've all done it. So
you're on the same page. Well, and the first thing I want to ask you, and you're going to crack up, but years ago, I was a smoker. And when I got into the real estate business, I couldn't smoke anymore. And this has been a long time ago, 20 years ago. But I went to a hypnotherapist and to be hypnotized to stop smoking. But the lady, and this was in New Mexico, because I'm from New Mexico.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm from New Mexico.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah, from Albuquerque.
Me too. And so I'm just in Texas today, but yes, I'm a New Mexico resident. But anyway, I went to this lady, and I don't remember her name, so I can't tell you, but she couldn't hypnotize me.
Really?
Yeah. And so when I saw, and I thought, I'd love to go back and I'd love to know what happens, before and all of that, but she wasn't able to do it. Have you run across that?
Yes.
I stumped you there, huh?
No, you didn't stump me. I'm having a lot of visual images pop into my mind when you're saying that. I think that sometimes I run across people and they tell me that they can't be regressed, and once in a while I can't regress people.
Okay.
But earlier you mentioned, like I took some training in neuro-linguistic programming,
right,
which is kind of getting into the idea that the mind is like a computer. And so we can kind of go inside and like reprogram our little minds to put a better output for us. And one of the things that we were trained to do that I've been doing for years is like helping people tune into whether you're more visually oriented, you're more of an auditory person, or you're a kinesthetic person. And so I think that if a hypnotherapist can recognize that not everybody is going to see technicolored unicorns when they go into a regression state. Sometimes you can have a gut feeling or an inner knowing, or sometimes you can, like in my process, I always have people meet with a guide who can like maybe tell them some things if they're more auditory. And then the other thing is, I do spend a lot of time with clients trying to help them to believe in the thing that just crossed their mind, because I do most of my work by phone for the past several years, but when I work in person, or even I can hear it over the phone, if I ask somebody a question, you can look under their eyelids, and their eyelids will be going doing, 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 because they are processing the question I asked them. And sometimes part of it is something flashed across people's minds. Maybe they either pushed it down. I'm not saying that's what you did, but I'm saying a lot of times they might think, well, that just sounds crazy, I'm not going to say that, or maybe it just seems so random, it doesn't seem like it's possible. So I try to do a lot of coaching to coach this information out, because I don't think people, it depends how you are being regressed. I think the typical, like, let's walk, deepening is very difficult for some people to do. And so I kind of leave people more, it's more like listening to a guided meditation CD in the processes in the book. So I don't know, how was it? Like, were they trying to really deepen you to the point of?
I don't know. She was just telling me all this stuff, and she's like, "And you're under," and I'm like, "No, I'm not."
You're not.
I said, "No, I'm not." But I'm pretty type A personality, so I don't know. But I'm sure maybe I could do it now. But I just wanted to ask you that question and then she was upset because she couldn't, So I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I don't know." And then I thought, well, maybe some people, or maybe my mind goes too quick, or for whatever reason, or maybe I just wasn't my time. Because sometimes there's divine intervention there, and maybe I wasn't supposed to.
I believe in all of that, because you
Yeah.
will never present the things that I'm talking about, visual, audio, kinesthetic, they're not going to present themselves unless it's time.
Right. I really give you credit. What's really cool about you is you can hypnotize people, but you're spiritual, which I think is so awesome. And so, you believe in the guides, and you believe in, a higher power. And that's what makes you so interesting.
Thank you. I guess to your point about the smoking cessation, a lot of the programs that people go through for that is very clinical. I just don't resonate with that at all.
Yeah, see, and you're spiritual. That's probably, and so you could probably hypnotize me. But a lot of people don't believe in reincarnation. I do. I definitely believe. I believe we come back until we learn our lessons. Is that what you think as well?
Yeah. After the childhood experience with the book, and the first time I heard about reincarnation, even though I was just a little kid at the time, it just felt like truth to me. So I do believe in reincarnation, but one of the things I also try to get across to people is I'm not here to try to convert people to my way of thinking, because the regression can actually be a process. And the images and the thoughts and things that come up in some of these sessions, I'm not God. I don't know exactly where these things come from. Is it really a past life? That might be my interpretation, but I still think that mankind, we don't really know the vastness of the creator when we're in a physical body. So I'm not, so if an image comes up, it could be archetypal, it could be coming from the same realm of dream imagery, it could be symbolic. And so as long as the client is able to tell themselves a little story about something, let's say, that happened in the 1200s, and then why does that apply to what we're doing now? The only reason why we do a regression, to me, in the realm that we're talking about it, it's a process. And if the process helps people become happier in their current life, then that's the whole reason to do it. So,
The cool thing I liked about your book, and I loved your stories. You guys, she has all these really neat stories in here, and we'll tell some of them. I hope you will tell some of them today from the book. But one thing that really caught me, you take people back and you regress them to the time so they can heal an issue that they're having in their current life. But then you take them forward. I thought that was really interesting. You take them forward so that they can see they're past it and they see themselves happy and free of that issue, correct?
Yeah, I think it's really key, because again, the only reason why we go to the past is so our current life can become better. And one of the ways for me to know that the client, like I was saying earlier, is convinced that this is happening, is to have them go out to a point in their current life in the future, whether that's tomorrow or maybe it's next week or it's next year, where they can actually go into an event, and this is where we get more into feelings, like what does it feel like to know that you've actually succeeded in resolving this issue, or you're actually living the life that you enjoy, or you've let go of this or that, or whatever it is. And then I have them really tune into the feeling, and then when they come back from the journey, again, if I can convince them to leave the session and then just to take the steps. Like first I read the book, then I walked out, then I did this and that, kind of like they're reverse engineering. And if they can believe in their journey and the fact that this bright future is possible, then they can really create a lasting change and move into what they really want to create in their current life, which is really what it's all about.
Right. Well, and there's people that are stuck. I mean, you have stories, and I read a lot of them. So many stick out in my mind. The girl that was afraid of bees. She was terrified of bees. Tell that story if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I was out at an event, and this girl approached and was just terrorized of bees. She felt like they were chasing her around all over the place. So we just did a very brief process in the mind, because sometimes you can go in your mind. She was able to do a clearing there, and then she came up to me later, and the bees were flying around her, but they weren't really getting very close anymore. And sometimes I think it's a matter of going inside,
right,
and changing. It's kind of like the law of attraction that
you
everybody
change
talks
the
about.
energy.
Yes, you
I believe
change
you
the
change the
energy.
energy. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
Yes. And
I
so
like that.
it's powerful. We all know that, but it's really true that when you change the inside, then what you're attracted to, or what's attracted to you, is going to change.
Right, that's awesome. And you also talk about cutting the cords, which I thought which is a spiritual thing. And so I think that's wonderful that you've brought that into your practice. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about, they're energetic cords, just like she probably had energetic cords connected to bees. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Can you
And
kind of touch on that real quick so people understand?
yeah, like for example, in the case of the girl with the bees, so she went into a past life. We did a clearing, and then whatever it is, like that's what I would call an unwanted influence. In this case, the bees. Just let's say she imagines bees in front of her, that she uses her imagination, because a big part of this is your willingness to use the imaginative part of yourself. Just imagine there's a cord connecting you with the
Okay.
image of the bees in this case, and then we just using an angel or a guide. I like Archangel Michael myself.
Me
I'll have
too.
him come along. Oh, goody. And
Yeah,
he
right behind me.
forward with a sword. And then we send a healing to that, and we receive a healing, but you're always sending and blessing and healing others. If there's some kind of trauma in the past, or, every day, let's say you're going to work and you've got somebody at work you're not getting along with, just send them light, cut the cords with them, send them a blessing. And then what you start to see is, again, what we were talking about. Suddenly the person's being nice to you. Maybe that tension you had before is no longer there. I mean, it's really, really powerful. And it's
Yeah.
something that you can literally do every minute of every day
Well,
if needed.
yeah, and one story that I read a bunch of the stories, and I wish I would have had time to read them all. But one of the stories that I read in the book is about a girl who didn't get along with her stepfather, and he beat her, and she just had always held on to it, I guess. And then, well, you can probably tell the story better than me. And then you took her back and regressed her, and he was a soldier that had beaten her for stealing food, like in the 1700s or something like that. And then once she realized that, she was able to cut the cords, and then everything was okay with her. Is that right?
Yeah, because sometimes, you know, we want life to be perfect and wonderful, and sometimes it's just challenging.
Right.
So in that case, for sure, I mean, did it make what happened in the current life acceptable or wonderful? No.
Right.
But sometimes the only way we can heal is to just kind of come to a different understanding about what happened and be able to just let it go, so it's no longer carrying an emotional charge. So sometimes, just like in this case, like she went back there, she saw the event, and just viewing the event from that vantage point made her go, oh wow, you know what, I don't need to carry this anymore. Let's cut
Right.
the cords. Because in the end, when we're not able to forgive, or we're not able to let go of some of the bad things that have happened in the past, we are the ones who end up suffering. So a lot of the journeys are just real gentle, just to help when we get to the guided journeys part for the readers, just to help you kind of gently go through this and start just letting go of some of these things, so that you can live that more peaceful life.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we're getting ready to go to commercial break, but you guys, if you want to pick up her book, it's really awesome. And there's wonderful stories, and we're going to tell some more of them today on the show. It's called Meet Your Karma and the Healing Power of Past Life Memories, because these past life memories can really interfere with our life today. Hey, this is Nancy Yearout. We're here today with Shelley Kaehr. She's a PhD, and we'll be right back. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and we're back, and we're talking about past life regressions, past life memories. I have so many questions for you today. I've got like notes like you wouldn't believe, because I think what you do is really cool, because you really help people.
Thank you. I hope so.
Oh, I bet you, how many people have you helped?
Oh my gosh. I have been in private practice for 20 years.
Oh my
It's
God.
scary.
That's
Thousands of
awesome.
people I've worked with. I've been really blessed to work with thousands of people. And it's helped me, this modality, and I always just pray that it's going to be a help to others as well. So,
Now, I have a question for you. Have you
yes.
ever has anybody ever regressed you? Have you gone back?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
awesome. That's awesome. And it's helped you in your life today.
It really did. That's actually how I decided to do this professionally. Was I had a
Okay.
very transformational past life regression.
Okay.
Do you want me to tell that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I wrote my first book on regression, came out in 2003, and it was about this situation. I had many years ago, a dear friend of mine invited me to go hiking. I didn't go, and he
Okay.
was killed in a hiking accident
Oh, yeah.
on that weekend. And so about a month after his death, I saw his spirit in the window of my house wearing a white tank top and some jeans. And
Okay.
so I had a lot of paranormal experiences. This is back in the early 90s. And finally, it kind of vanished. And then many years later, about a decade after he had passed, I started having a lot of paranormal experiences. And I was living in Denver, Colorado at the time. And somebody said, well, you should go have a past life regression. And I went and had the regression, and I realized that he had known, or I had known him in many, many lifetimes. In 3 different lifetimes,
Oh,
I was
wow.
able to see where he had passed away prematurely, leaving me with these unresolved, strange, guilty feelings. And just like what's happened to some of the case studies in the book Meet Your Karma, the minute I kind of viewed this, I went, wow, all these different things that I had tried over the years to kind of get in touch with this, and like I was saying earlier, finally let it go. I was never able to let it go
Right.
until I was able to see that I had actually known this person so many times. It gave me such profound and transformational healing. That's when I knew that this is the one thing that's helped me, and I have to be able to help other people in that same way.
You knew. Yeah. I think it's fantastic. Now, you take people back, to all different times. What's the furthest? Have you ever gone back to biblical times?
Yes, some people to biblical times.
I find it
I
fascinating, is why I ask you.
It is. There's a lot of, over the years, I have regressed quite a few people who believe they were with Jesus during the crucifixion, and they get very, very emotional.
Wow.
I've regressed other people who have reported being biblical figures, like the brother of James, or Jesus's brother James in the Bible, and
Okay.
different things. And usually those are very emotional for the people who recall those times. And then I have a connection with the Edgar Casey work, so I do tend
Oh,
to
I didn't know
attract.
that.
Yeah,
That's
I've
cool.
written several books for the Edgar Casey Foundation, so because of that, I do regress a lot of Atlanteans and Lemurians
Oh my
and
gosh.
Egyptians.
Oh my gosh. Well, if somebody wants to wants you to do a regression in the audience, what do they do?
They can, if they go to pastlifelady.com, I've got sessions there. And what's interesting about the times that we're currently living in is that I have been doing phone work and phone regressions for many, many years, because I've just had so many people contacting me from around the world. So I've had to learn to work with people by phone. And
Okay.
some people don't think that it's possible to be regressed by phone, but of course it is, because we're still together. And when they call me from overseas, yeah, we do Zoom or Skype, because we're still together. That's what we're kind
Right.
of learning right now. More people
Right.
are learning that it really is possible to be together without being together. And because a lot of it's done by phone, when you close your eyes, I'm still with you. I send energy to the people, and then we just kind of go on the journey together. And
That's
one thing I
awesome.
like about it
Yeah.
is because when I used to have an office and people would come in, half the time they were stuck in traffic or they got lost or, different things are happening. And so when you're in the comfort of your home and you're in your little snuggle jammies, which again, I think people are getting very familiar with right now, there's unfortunately,
that's true.
There's something very comforting there. And also because I'm a real softie, like sometimes I don't want to give tough love messages, but I have to do that. And it's
But
a
it's
lot
easier.
easier.
I figured that.
I don't want to say anything, but you need tough love, and I need to be able to give it. And so it's easier for me.
I see. I think it's awesome. One thing I wrote down here, Carl Jung, you said, thought humankind shares a collective unconsciousness where all the memories of human species are stored. I think that's
Yes.
cool. Now, I've had Bill Foss on my show, and he's coming back, and he talks about the Akashic records, but that reminds me of what Jung is saying here. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand, doesn't it? A little bit there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we all have access to that record and that shared consciousness that Carl Jung talks about. That's why I say that sometimes, Nancy, I don't know, because I don't know, are the
Right.
images you're bringing up,
Right.
let's say when we're talking about biblical times, are they just sharing in that archetypally, or were they really there? But the thing is, at the base level is, do they feel better, and did they receive the healing afterwards? To me, that's the most important. But they might be talking about and kind of regressing back into an archetypal energy, for sure, into that Akashic record.
There's another couple stories I want to talk about. One really hit me hard, which was the lady and her daughter. And I think it was back in the 30s, and I'll have to look at my notes. And they were standing in the food line. And her and her daughter were in the food line, and they got their food and they got their bread. And then the mother was killed. And she said, stabbed by somebody who wanted to steal her bread. And she said, I can't die. And their question you said was, what did you learn from this? And she said that I can't control when I die. And that really hit home with me. We have no control over any of it, Can you talk about that a minute?
Yeah, I think
do you know which one I'm talking about?
I do. And one thing, when I was going back to do the edits on this book,
Right.
I'm a super positive person, and really I want to talk about, technicolored rainbows and unicorns and stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, that's,
So
yeah.
some of the stories in this book are really kind of heavy because a lot of the people were really dealing with some of the basic survival level fear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of them. Here she is, she's trying to protect her child. They don't have anything to eat. I mean, she's just trying to survive, and someone is killing her, and she's realizing that, God is in charge, and unfortunately it's her time to go.
Right.
The timing of this book to me is so strange. When what we're going through now, we're seeing people kind of getting back into some of these really survival level situations in our current life right now.
Right.
And I think that it's very profound. We are all having to step back and go, wait a minute.
What's really important, right?
Yeah, what's important? And
Uh-huh.
I had plans this year. Well, guess what? God had a different plan, and here we are. We're all stuck at home now.
Isn't
And I
that
think that
something?
there's something about that, just to open our hands and say, I surrender, and just go with the flow. I don't know. There was several case studies in the book about that, and I think it's a really good point that you said it. Yeah, I'm not in control. Many of the people said that. There was a tendency for me, when I'm writing different books, I want to make kind of varied case studies because I have so many case studies.
Right.
But I was really guided that these are the ones that need to come out, and it's just been an interesting thing to watch. So,
well, yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. I really believe, and this is what I think. And I had a guest on last week. She was from India, and she Rashmi, and she said, we all have to stay home right now so that we go within, because we're all so hung up on everything that's on the outside of us that this almost forces us to go within. And that's what we all need to do in order to raise the consciousness here on the planet. And so how do you feel about that?
I totally agree. About a year ago for my birthday, I happened to get accepted into Vipassana. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No, I haven't.
It's a really profound meditation that is the original teachings of the Buddha. And they
Okay.
have one of the premier centers that happen to be like south of Dallas where I live. And so
Cool.
you have to go in there, take the vow of silence, and live in a monastery for 10 days,
Whoa.
eating very little food and basically sitting on a cushion for about 9 hours a day.
Okay.
And of course, I love to talk. And the family said, there's no way she's going to be able to keep her trap shut for that long. Believe it or not.
Oh my God.
Nancy. And
You
while
did
I was,
it. You did
yes.
it.
And while I was in there, I was in the cushions, and one of the things they're teaching you, they're not giving you any direction. Just breathe out of your nose and just observe the breath. And you're thinking, my God, this is going to be boring.
Right.
But then what happens is the theater of the mind starts to come in, and you start to think all these thoughts. And one of the thoughts eventually is, I can't sit still any longer. This is killing me. And so they want you to hold still. And then what you start to observe is like pain will rise up to the surface of the body and it'll start to twist off. And one of the things I've been teaching about
Whoa.
in my energy healing books is that these thoughts are things. They're
Right.
sitting in your energetic field. So if I go into a past life in my mind, there's an energetic component to that too. So my process includes the energy work because we have to move that out of there. And I was
Mhm.
having memories from past lives and things like that. And it really, I've been a meditator doing transcendental meditation for like 15 years, but this just took me to the next level. And now that we're in the situation we are in now,
Mhm.
I mean, I my heart just breaks for people because I know how hard it is to feel the pain of loneliness, and that is a real pain. And I think that most people just have not had the time or have not had the opportunity to really have to sit and be, and it is very, very difficult. But I
Mhm.
do know that we will get through this, and when we emerge from this, it is going to be profound
I
because, like you
agree.
said, what is important?
Yeah.
What are the stupid things? I mean, okay, I can't go to the gym. Well, guess what? That's a luxury. What have I
Yeah.
been taking for granted, and what haven't I been giving enough attention to? I mean, something really beautiful and profound will emerge from this
I agree
when we
with
get
you.
through it.
I agree with you. Hey, we're getting ready to go off to another commercial break. You guys, we're here today with Shelley Kaehr. She's a PhD. Her book is called Meet Your Karma and Clear Your Anxiety, Depression, and Trauma through Self-Guided Journeys. And so if we want to get in touch with you and do one of these, we just go to your, to Past Life Lady. What is it? We go
Yeah,
to
pastlifelady.com.
.com. Okay. And then they can set up an appointment with you and you can do it over the phone.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Hey, you guys, this is Nancy Yearout, and this is High Road to Humanity, and we'll be right back. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and we're back here today with Shelley. And Shelley is a PhD, and she's telling us how to meet our karma. I think everybody should do this. I do. Have you ever had anybody come in your office and say, I don't know what's going on. I just feel like, something's keeping me from moving forward, and find out what it is. Can you do that?
Oh, yes. I think people are normally needing to be in some degree of pain or confusion before they'll go do something like this. And so a lot of times it is a feeling of I'm stuck, or I know that I'm supposed to be doing something else. I don't really know what it is. And so they do the regression to definitely get in touch
Right.
with that aspect of themselves so that they can move forward for sure.
What's been one of the most interesting cases? Can you tell us, like, probably one of your most interesting cases that you've done? I've got a bunch written down, but I want to hear yours.
Oh gosh. In the book that we're talking about, I have to say one of my favorites is about a woman named Claudia.
Okay.
This is an Egyptian one. So the book kind of talks about the fact that all of us have different kind of behaviors that are maybe a little bit on the bizarre side. So Claudia had a couple different things going on. She seemed like a pillar of the community, and she was very involved in animal rights, which I am very interested in as well.
Right.
She admitted during the session that she had gotten in some difficulties because she was actually keeping too many animals. She was taking care of too many. And so we went back into a past life and we discovered that she lived in ancient Egypt, and she had taken a vow as part of the Bastet cult, which is the cult that worships the cats. And so one of my favorite parts of this Meet Your Karma book is the idea that we can work with vows and soul contracts that potentially we made hundreds or thousands of years ago that might be informing certain decision making and actions in our current life.
Well, wait a minute. I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
So you're saying if you make a contract in a past life, it still holds true today?
Sometimes.
Okay. I just want to know that. I was like,
Not
that
always.
really kind of threw me. Okay. All right. Continue.
Yeah. So in this case, she was in this cult in ancient Egypt, and she made a vow to care for cats. And so she said that, like, she actually got in trouble because she would see them and she'd be like, I can't turn any of them away. So she's got dozens and dozens of these, and it was becoming a health hazard to the point where she actually had to get rid of them, and she had to leave the community she lived in and relocate. And that's when I kind of found her. So, so these vows that we make, sometimes are kind of like a business contract. You can just go back in the past, into the past life, meet with, in this case, she met with a priestess in the regression and kind of had a discussion. Okay, obviously she's always going to love cats. That's fine. But would it be okay for her to kind of be released from the vow so that she could live a more balanced life in the present? And so then she was able to do that.
I think that's amazing that you're able to help people like that. I have a fear of heights, and I'm going to have to find out why, but there's a lady in here you talk about, Carol. She had a fear of tunnels. And then you found out in South America in the 1800s. Tell that story. She was in a cave.
Yeah, she had a fear. Every time she would drive her car through one of those tunnels that goes through a mountain, she would just have a panic attack. And so she ended up going into a past life in South America where she was in a mine, and the mine collapsed and killed everyone. So that's kind of one of these things where we just kind of float up above it, look down on it, imagine the cord of light that Nancy and I were talking about earlier, cut the cords, bring light over it, raise her up into a new reality, and then take her off into the future. And then she was able to go through those kinds of situations in the future with a little bit more calm and not having that same level of just gripping panic.
There's always a lesson, isn't there?
There really is. And part of it is that I make sure that I'm asking people, so what lessons did you learn? Because to me, that's what makes the work transformational.
Right.
It's kind of like when we talk about karma, which is kind of a funny word in a way.
Yeah.
Taking cause and effect and turning it into something that can be a beautiful dharma, where we're actually using the things that maybe hurt us in the past, but because we've learned from them, then we can go on and help other people. And it's a super important part of the process, is that they've learned something from it.
That's what I picked up, and I thought that was really interesting that you said that. The other thing, talk about cutting the cords. Now, do you have them cut the cords, or do you cut the cords, or do you do it together? How do you do that? Just curious, because
typically, yeah. Typically in this book, or really in all of my processes when I work with people, we establish a safe place, and we will establish an introduction between you and your guide. Is your guide a spirit guide, or is it Archangel Michael, or is it a deceased loved one who's coming? But someone's going to come with you on the journey who is acknowledged as someone who knows you, who's known you for thousands of years, who really has your back and is going to hold your hand so that you don't feel alone. Okay. So a lot of times it's that being or that person. I'll have them bring out the scissors, or Archangel Michael brings out a big sword. And so that person will usually assist you with cutting the cords.
Okay.
Rather than me. There has to be like some scissors, or usually a cord cutting it.
Okay. I just think that's really interesting, because, I've done cord cutting for a long time, but I didn't even, think about it. And then that's how you do it. You also, there's another story. I loved your stories. You guys, let me just say something about this book really quick here, because I want to kind of go through. There are 3 parts to the book. Okay. So in the center part of the book, in the beginning, she talks about, hypnosis. And then in the center, she gives you all these different cases. But then towards the end, you talk about relief methods. So if somebody didn't want to have a session with you, they could actually read the book, and you have all these different visualizations that you do. Can you talk about that? So that if somebody, can buy the book and just do it themselves.
Yeah, I'm really a huge believer in self-help and the idea that people just need tools to be able to do things on their own. So
Yeah.
definitely, because your subconscious mind really loves to listen to the sound of your voice, even if you don't consciously like your own voice, you can actually take these phone apps now and just record the guided imageries that I've given you in the book, the little exercises, and the good,
Okay.
yeah, and then you could just play it back to yourself and go through them.
Okay. All right. I love that. I think that's
Yeah.
really cool. Well, yeah, because you give all these things. And then you do talk about meditation. You have a whole section on vows and soul contracts, which we touched on a little bit. Do you find that a lot where people have vows, like the cats, for example? You gave a couple examples in the book, I'll never love again, or I'll be forever in your debt. Do you come across this a lot?
It is actually pretty common. The cat one is a bizarre story, so that one's
Yeah.
a little more weird. But
Yeah.
one thing I do find a lot is that people are working on issues around abundance and prosperity. And so one of the cases in there was about a guy who was having a hard time getting a promotion at work.
Okay.
And he found that he had actually been like a priest in a past life, had
Okay.
taken the vow of silence, which many of these clergy did. And of course, along with that was the vow of poverty. And so the
Oh,
poverty vow is very common, that I run
okay.
across that one a lot. And if you've taken a vow of poverty in a past life, see, because like people aren't, this isn't going to be the first stop. Like maybe you've worked on it different ways, but you're not really getting to the source event. And so that's when people come to do past life work or go through this book. You can actually go back to the source event. Maybe you've discovered you were some monk in a past life. You clear the vow of poverty. And in this guy's case, he was able to work on his vow of silence, his vow of poverty, and then he was able to get a promotion and actually was able to step up to the plate in a way that he really hadn't been able to do before.
I think that's really cool that you help people so much like that, and it changes people's lives.
It can, yes, if they believe in it. And again, was he really a monk, or was he just telling himself this? Well, it came up out of his subconscious. And so again, as long as he believes it and then moves forward with this new understanding of himself, which he
Mhm.
did, then that's when you really can change your life.
I like the part where you talk about the energy getting stuck in your body, because because I believe that, and I understand it's how you feel and your emotions and your thoughts. And so something can still, when you come in, when you reincarnate, you bring all that past life. I think that's amazing. It's just hard to wrap my head around, but I get it, that you're bringing all that energy from all those past lives in. And I wonder, do you think that we work on a lot of those things without even realizing it from past lives?
I think we do. I'm kind of in a philosophical, I've been asking myself a philosophical question over the years about how much of our lives is free will and
Okay.
how much of our lives is kind of like you and I were meant to meet today because we're going to
Right.
be friends or whatever. How much did we
Right.
plan in advance versus how much we really have control over things, like we talked about earlier? Do
Right.
we really maybe not have as much control as we'd like? And one of the journeys I've taken people on is where we actually go to the moments before they incarnated into this life so that they can
Oh,
talk about the
wow.
things that they're getting ready to learn about.
Okay.
And I do think that sometimes, again, if people are just having some chronic difficulties and they just can't get it, like, why doesn't this happen or why doesn't that happen? I've been working on myself for years and it's just not, I'm not able to get a breakthrough. Then sometimes they can go in there and kind of start to acknowledge that maybe they did actually carry some things through during the current life. I don't think it's readily in our conscious awareness. And I was talking to somebody last week about the idea that, we have an opportunity in our current lifetimes to really heal and resolve a lot of things, because let's say I lived in the 1800s or something and I'm out on a farm, I got to tend to the cows. I don't have time to work on spiritual matters. And I think that because of technology and kind of where we are as a society right now, we really have a chance to really do a lot of healing on ourselves and on all the people or the past lives that we've had. We've got a huge opportunity right now.
We've got about 1 minute to break, but I'm curious. I have always thought that you keep reincarnating with the same people, same family, and that type of thing. What's your thoughts on that?
I definitely am convinced that the majority of the people we're hanging out with and running across in our current life are people that we have been around the block before with. Sometimes those people are very challenging to us,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes those people are a real blessing. And we're so happy to have some people who really have our back. And you know who those people are because you look them in the eye and
Right,
like you meet somebody and you go, oh, wow, I just feel like I've known this person forever and we've only known each other 5 minutes.
right.
And I'm a
So
huge
that's where,
believer.
yeah, so that's where that comes. Hey, you guys, this is Nancy Yearout. I'm here with Shelley Kaehr. She's a PhD. Her book is called Meet Your Karma. This is High Road to Humanity, and we'll be right back. Hi, it's Nancy Yearout. We're back here. We're talking to Shelley Kaehr. She's a PhD. We have wonderful stories that she's telling us about past life regressions. Do you have, a lot of people have phobias. Do you have a lot of people that come to you who have phobias more than anything? What's the biggest phobia that you see? I have a fear of falling. I have a fear of heights.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I don't know
That's,
why. I'll have to have you
see?
regress me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
have
mean,
no
that's,
idea. And the weird thing is, I'll tell you this. I didn't for the longest time, but then it just all of a sudden, like the last few years, and I don't know why. So that to me is
that's interesting.
because I've not always been afraid of heights. I've parasailed and, done all that kind of stuff. But just the last few years, yeah.
Did it come over you like from doing something or?
My husband and I camp a lot. And it started like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. We always go up to the Rocky Mountains. And I was always a little afraid, but I didn't pay too much attention. But now I'm just like petrified when we go around the curves and it's like a 1,000-foot drop and that. Now I'm just scared to death and I have no idea why.
Sometimes these phobias will come on at certain ages that are correlated to the age that the person was when they passed in a previous lifetime. So
That's
you've
what I
got my
thought.
curiosity.
Okay.
Let's just put it
Well,
that way.
I don't know. That was it. Yeah, because I was never afraid before. So yeah, I'll have to give you a call. We'll have to do a clearing and figure out what the heck what's going on here. Have you come across any famous people doing this?
I talked about that in my first book because it was really funny. In Dallas, Texas, where I currently live, I had once regressed 6 Cleopatras.
Oh my goodness! Look out.
What? And so I kind of talk about that. I really haven't done as many famous people, but in this case, like when they're all telling me they're Cleopatra, then that's when I would definitely think this is more archetypal rather than reality,
Right.
obviously. But
Right.
no, that's actually one of the most interesting aspects of it is that I don't actually run across famous people. And to me, that actually makes it feel more valid because most of us were just regular people. We weren't doing anything exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And if we wanted to make up something, we would make up a lot more exciting lives than what most of these people report. And so that makes it feel a lot more authentic to me.
What's your biggest success story from somebody?
Yes, phobias. This one is not in the Karma book, but it's in some earlier stuff I did. So there was a man who was in his 40s and he was deathly afraid of the dark to the
Okay.
point where he owned a home, but he would have to turn every single light on in the house and he would have to leave it on at night and just couldn't sleep in the dark. So
Oh.
he came for a regression and we took him back to a farmhouse in like the 1700s where he was a little boy and he fell down some cellar stairs. His parents told him, do not go down in the cellar. But of course he did it anyway. And he was curious and he toppled down the stairs to his death.
Oh
And
gosh.
so in this case, like you don't always do this, but in this case, I felt like what we need to do is we're going to just back up and then we're just going to go into a new reality. And I'm going to have him go over there, go ahead and look at the stairs. And in this case, of course, they didn't have electricity. So I had him light a candle, put it on a little candelabra, and then very safely walk down each of the steps into the
Oh,
cellar, and then
a
he looked
do-over.
around, yeah, like
Okay.
a cosmic
Okay.
do-over. Look
Okay.
around, see what's there, and he goes, "Oh wow, there's really not much here. It's not very interesting." And I go, "Okay, great. Now let's come back up and let's go safely, and then now let's progress into a future where you feel better about that." And I actually, I don't see everybody who comes to a session. I don't see them again, but in this case, I did see this guy a few years later, and he said,
Right.
"This changed my life. I went home, I was able to shut
Wow.
the lights off, and I was never scared again." And so
Wow.
phobias for sure. If you've got something unexplained, when I hear the story like the one you just told, I go, "Oh, wow."
Something happened. I'll
Yeah.
have to call you. We'll have to get together. You guys, if you want to get in touch, give your information and your website out for us, Shelley, if they want to
Yeah,
find
they can
you.
come over to pastlifelady.com, and I've got a YouTube channel where they can try a free little mini regression at Past Life Lady on YouTube,
That's cool.
Past Life Lady on Facebook.
Love it. I love it. I'm so excited you're here with us today. I have another question. Can children be regressed?
They can. I haven't done as much of that because most parents don't want their kids to be regressed. But,
Ah,
usually the kids, when they remember their past lives, they just, spit out some information and give it to mom
yeah.
and dad, and they're like,
Yeah. Yeah. Because a lot of kids do remember. Because
they do remember.
you remember up to what is it, like age 7 or something, I think it is. You can remember your past lives.
Definitely.
And you can confirm that that's what your findings has been as well.
Oh, yes. And because a lot of my friends have had their kids tell them things.
Right.
And most of, you have friends like I do. I'm sure they're more open-minded. So they're not going to
Right.
say, "Hey, what are you talking about?"
Right.
No, but a lot of mainstream parents, they hear stuff like that and they go, "Okay, go back and play with your Barbie dolls, dear. Don't worry about it." And,
And they
people get
flub it
this,
off. Right.
yeah,
Right. No, I'm with you. Family members. Now, this isn't the reason I'm asking you is because I have 2 daughters, and one daughter believes this, and the other one is like, yeah, okay, mom, whatever. She doesn't believe in reincarnation. That doesn't say that in the Bible. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't say everything it's supposed to. But anyway, um, what about family members? Have you ever regressed your family member?
oh my gosh. My dad is, he it's so apparent, some of his past lives, but he's actually told me he's afraid for me to regress him because he's afraid to see what he might see. And I've
Oh,
heard this from other people. And you know what's so interesting about that is that sometimes you think that what you're going to experience is far worse than what it actually is.
okay.
And so no, I've never regressed him. I've accidentally regressed my brother because he's much younger than me. Didn't mean
Okay.
to. I was trying to teach him some meditation skills, and he accidentally popped into a couple of war lifetimes in the past, but
Well,
I didn't mean to.
oops,
So
sorry.
you know how the family members, they just sometimes they're just not into it.
Right, right. Well, that's what I wondered because, you just never know. So you've written several books. Tell us the other books in case the audience would be interested in reading some of your other books here, Shelley.
Oh gosh, I've got so many. The one that I'm really excited about, it's going to be coming out May 8th. It's called
Oh,
Past Lives with Pets.
no
And
way.
it's,
I gotta have you back
yes,
on. Real. Well, I love pets. That's crazy. Tell me about it. I want to hear it.
this is super cute. I mean, that movie and that book, The Dog's Journey, which
Yeah.
I read the book, I bawled my head off. I mean, I was blubbering. It was really bad. But where, I have a book filled with case studies of people who really believe that little Fluffy here was their dog from when they were in the 3rd grade. And they kind of accidentally find these things out when they came in to deal with actual issues. Because, I mean, nobody comes in and says, "I can't take it anymore. My dog's driving me bananas.
Right, right, right.
So these are really lovely stories about people who love their animals. There's a lot of healing journeys in the book that it's going to help people who are dealing with pet grief.
Okay.
And then, of course, past lives where people thought they were animals and how to get in touch with your animal guide,
Oh, that's neat. I
all
like
kinds of
that.
stuff. So that one's
Oh,
coming out.
May 8th. Okay, well, I want you to come back and visit me. Will you come back and see us on the high road?
I would love to. Thank
I
you.
think that's
Yes, I love
great.
it.
I think that's great. Well, because I'm a cat girl.
Oh,
I
you're a
mean,
cat girl. I
I'm a
knew we
cat
were
girl.
kindred spirits.
Yeah, and so I have I don't tell people usually about this, but I've always had a cat. When I was a little girl, I mean little, I was probably 4 years old. My dad's secretary had Siamese kittens, and so he brought me home a kitten, and this cat slept on my head at night. Yeah, this cat would go up on the pillow and it would sleep up on my head, and I named her Samantha, and that's the name of one of my daughters is Samantha. I
I
named
have
her
to
after
tell
my
you
cat.
something.
What?
My dad's secretary gave him a cat named Sam that used to sleep on my neck.
That's so weird.
And Sam will be in Past Life with Pets. He's one of the ones that
Well,
came back.
yeah, and it was such a big thing for me. I've always had cats since then, and I named my first daughter Samantha. And she always looks at me like, "Come on, Mom." But I'm a cat person, and now I have a cat, Gracie. I have 2 cats now, my husband and I, and he's kind of allergic, but he puts up with it. And she's a white cat. She's a ragdoll cat. I don't know if you know what that is. They collapse.
Yes.
Yeah. So I found her in a boat, and the only reason I tell you this story is that she has to sleep next to me every night, like right next to me. I've never had a cat. Now, I've had the cat sleep on my head before, and I always figure now it's because of the energy going up is what I figure. But this cat sleeps like right next to me, and so she's like a part of me. She thinks I'm her mother.
I have a ragamuffin cat. You're talking about the ones that just flop. That's Biscuit, the cat. He is the reincarnation of another pet. I'll save that for the next show. But
oh
yes.
my gosh! Well,
you and I are some kind of kindred spirits.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm telling you,
crazy.
we have probably known each other in a past
I
life.
believe it. I believe it. Well, listen, we've got about 2 minutes. What else is there another story you'd like to tell us to end with today, or with everybody staying home? What advice do you have for us?
I think it's a really beautiful. I mean, I think the best thing we can do for ourselves is try to maintain peace and calm within ourselves, and that's not always easy with the things that are going on in the world. So there are some processes in the book to help people just with getting in touch with their breathing and doing progressive muscle relaxations that I hope will be helpful. Okay. And then just remembering what I learned in the Buddhist monastery, that everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We're in the middle of something, but this will resolve itself, and we're going to get back to some kind of, I think it's going to be a new normal. It won't be the same, but it'll be good.
I think that's good advice. I think things are going to change for the better. I do believe that consciousness will raise from this catastrophe. I really do. And I don't look at it. I know this may sound weird. There's a lot of people dying, and I realize that, and I'm not, and I understand that. But I do think that good will come out of this. I really do. I feel that good will come out of it.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I really believe that I guess when my friend passed away, the thing that helped me through the past life regression was seeing that he passed away. It maybe wasn't ideal for me, but that we're all on a path. And, if we really have our spirituality really rooted within us, we know that we are infinite. We know we are going to spirit, and that we really cannot be destroyed. We're indestructible.
Right.
And so hopefully we can find it inside the deepest part of ourselves to tap into that peaceful space that lives inside of us. And I think the more of us who do that we're having to be forced to do it now, it has to be something really beautiful that's going to emerge from all of this murk.
Right.
That
Go within, go inside.
And in here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's wonderful. Hey, thanks for being on the show today, you guys. It's called Meet Your Karma. Shelley, thanks for being here. I hope you'll come back and talk to us when your new pet book comes out. And there's my thing going off telling us the show is over.
Yay! Nancy, it was a joy to meet you. Thank you so much.
And this is High Road to Humanity. This is Nancy Yearout, and we'll see you next week.